Now immediately above the GTP8 here, we have our GT 8x4, 8-channel, Class A 4-band equalizer. If I just take this first channel from the top to the bottom, I can explain the controls as we go down. Up at the top we have the high frequency control. You have a choice of 5 frequencies from 3.3K to 15K. And here you have a 3-position toggle switch, which over to the right gives you plus or minus 16 or more dBs cut and boost. In the center cuts that facility, so it takes this EQ completely out of circuit. Or to the left, it gives you about plus or minus 6 dBs range for really fine tuning within a dB, that amount of lift or cut that you want to achieve. Immediately underneath it is the high mid, and you'll also notice a huge overlap between the frequencies of all of the controls. There are no gaps where you're trying to find a frequency and it's disappeared in the gap between the two controls. So the lowest frequency on the high frequency is 3.3, whereas the lowest frequency on the high mid is 2 kilohertz. So the high mid overlaps the high control, so you can get double boost, double cut, or a weird figure S notch, whatever you choose. There are 10 frequencies to choose from. Over to the right we have 3 Q settings, from a normal wide Q to a medium Q to a very narrow Q. So that's an unusual feature, to have 3 Qs. And all of these red knobs are center detented so that you can find the off position. And these mid controls have got up to 20 dBs plus or minus lift and cut. Underneath the high mid you have the low mid, which is similar in concept. It's a 10-position switch, it has the 3 Q systems, and it also has an enormous range compared with the low frequency. So the low mid goes right down to 100 Hertz, and the top on the low frequency is 330 Hertz. So again, there's a huge overlap between the two lower controls. And the low frequency is very similar to the high frequency. It has the 3-position switch, which gives you the plus or minus 16, the off, or the plus or minus 6 for the very gentle adjustment. And then right at the bottom we've got the high pass and low pass filter. These are engaged by pressing these buttons here. You have to have the equalizer engaged anyway, otherwise these two controls would not have any effect. But you have 5 frequencies for the high pass filter, 5 frequencies for the low pass filter. On the right here we have our 8x8 sub-mixer system. You can look upon each of the channels of this sub-mixer as an extension of the GT-M822's channels. It has a pre and post source selector, so it either selects pre or post the GTM's fader. It has its own input level control, which I believe has got 10 dBs in hand, especially if you're handling a low level input signal. And it has a pan switch and a pan pot, so that you can either ascend this channel to 8 mono sends or 4 stereo sends, depending on whether you have the pan selected. And then finally at the top of the channel you have the bus output control. So this is an 8x8, and you can expand it horizontally to make it 16x8, 24x8 ad infinitum, or you can expand it vertically to make it 8x8, 8x16, 8x24, or you can expand it in 2 directions to make it 16x16 and so on. Its sole purpose was to increase the number of bus sends from the GTM, but crucially we call this thing the absolute because it doesn't add artifacts. It's a clean signal. And finally it brings us to the GT 8x2 sub-mixer. This is a 1U rack-mounted mixer that provides 8 channels. Each level control at the bottom of the channel is 10 dBs of gain, and a pan pot. And the pan pot, you can either pan hard to the right, hard to the left, or there's a center detent where you pan equally both ways. Over on the right of the unit are 2 blue master output level controls, and this unit can be cascaded to make it 8 into 2, 16 into 2, 24 into 2. And its main feature in the Ivar system is to bring a mix back into the effects return path and actually increase the number of channels and facilities back into the GTM 822. Well, that's my little demonstration on how to use our Ivar console system. I've shown you how to use the equalizer, the GTM, the 8x8 and 8x2 extensions, and you have to remember that I'm always here at the end of the phone, I'm at the end of an email. I'm here to advise you how to connect it, how much current it draws, how best to lay out the patch bay and the rest of it. So you've always got my support with this wonderful system. It will serve you well.